This 7-page police report details an investigation into Leon Valley, Texas Mayor Chris Riley by the Office of the Attorney General Law Enforcement Division. But it's all blacked out. What is Mayor Riley hiding from you?
That is more than just appalling. It's disgusting and corrupt. He and this council have demonized as being corrupt to be just that, corrupt. The council is, of course, going to give this variance because this council is bought and paid for, but that isn't all.
Evan Bohl drones on and on about alleged corruption, yet he rarely has any proof to show. But even a broken clock is right twice per day, or perhaps he's better described as a broken record. Did I mention he's running for mayor against Riley? Yep, that should be exciting. However, no matter how irritating Evan can be, he still has the same rights as you and me. And the mayor cannot violate Evan's right to access public information just because he is running to boot her from the office she's held for 18 years.
That document did not, by law, have to be released. Now, they may release it to the general public as part of information, the open information. However, it was sought to be held. So if it is a damning document, keep it hidden. Show us that. Otherwise, release it. I say this to the council and to this community. Is this the kind of council we want? Blatant hypocrisy and corruption is this council's legacy. And I find that my presentation is rather pointless when I say this council has seen fit to hide through an investigative report.
Okay, there you go, Mr. Bohl. I'm really disappointed that we have to start the new year out again just with the same. It's just so disheartening, and we have people here from visitors that have to hear this, and it's really between you and Mr. Martinez. I wish you all just would work it out rather than bring it to the whole body. But anyway, that's my 2 cents, and I've got something to say at the announcements. But it's just a shame that we can't be more positive, really.
So what is this all about? Since 2018, fired Police Chief Joe Salvaggio has been using the police department as a weapon against those who criticize him or oppose his political establishment. Numerous government officials, residents, and journalists have been targeted.
We did have some discussion about Justin Pulliam and some comments that were being attributed to him and things that he said he didn't say when he got kicked off because y'all told him to kick him off because of the derogatory comments in that meeting. And so, Jacob, you kind of disproved one of them, but I think you showed on another in your report that actually you did attribute his name popping up with one of the derogatory comments.
That is correct.
And I don't want you to make it PG, but which comment was it that was directly attributed to Justin Pulliam's his name that popped up?
The specific comment as far as the him kind of orchestrating things, or not necessarily orchestrating things, but kind of stoking the thing. I'm trying to look it up. I'm sorry about it. 1 second.
I think it was something along the lines of the one shut the you know what up. I think that was it.
Oh, yeah, that I did not put in the report. That was, I was just, in this case, all I was doing is I was relaying the facts in this case. The only one that I brought up as far as the Justin Pulliam in his comment was, okay, now everyone can talk and call in, which kind of insinuated that he was trying to get people to come into the meeting and disrupt the meeting.
I know what it's like to be a victim of Joe's political drive-by hits. I know what it's like to face bogus accusations and to have long police reports full of lies about you. I'll have more on that in a future video. But I also know what it's like to be attacked and belittled by the political establishment. I know what it's like to be discriminated against at city council meetings or when attempting to obtain public information.
Mr. Pulliam is, again, I've got no problem with him being here. I've got a problem with what he's reporting here because he is tearing down our city.
And Ms. Alcacer just admitted that this rule that we're creating is specifically to target Justin Pulliam because she doesn't like the reaction that she's getting from his online viewers. And I would say is that his fault, or is that, look at your actions?
Salvaggio routinely used the police apparatus to attack those who politically challenged his team, criticized them, or simply asked too many questions. As the November 2020 election approached, and the Change Leon Valley Project had a near certain victory, Salvaggio's attacks intensified. And after he was blocked from the city manager position, he completely lost it. In his final weeks at Leon Valley, he was frantically accusing the council of anything and everything. He then claimed to be a whistleblower. In 2019, Mayor Riley disclosed attorney invoices to several residents. Joe, Kelly, and Donna Charles used that against her in ethics complaints and police investigations. I helped block the ethics scam and 312 attempt to remove Mayor Riley from office. Attorney-client privilege makes certain records confidential under Texas law. However, any party to the communication, other than the attorneys, can waive the privilege. It then becomes public. Mayor Riley was a party to the communications. The Leon Valley Home Rule Charter purports to prevent disclosure of attorney-client communications, but that has no basis in state law. The attorney invoices were published on the Change Leon Valley Project website, which Leon Valley Police described in a search warrant as an activist site wherein the city and police leadership have been openly criticized. The website drove Salvaggio crazy. This is a real screenshot from his computer. You can see he had the Penal Code and Public Information Act open and other tabs, struggling to find a crime to pin on his opposition. The speech critical of the police chief surely must be illegal, exponentially. Salvaggio accused Mayor Riley of misuse of official information, a third-degree felony. On October 23, 2020, the Bexar County District Attorney referred the case to the Office of the Attorney General, Law Enforcement Division. In August 2021, the Public Integrity Division Chief of the DA's office provided Police Chief David Gonzalez with the incident report created by the Attorney General's office. Mayor Riley received the report at that time, or at least knew the details about it. 5 days later, the San Antonio Express-News requested a copy of the AG report. The next day, Eric Mata of the Change Leon Valley Project requested the report. Salvaggio filed a request later that day. Mayor Riley added herself to Salvaggio's request. Over a week later, Evan Bohl also requested the report. The city withheld the incident report and sought Attorney General permission to keep it hidden. It was obvious to me that the report was floating around in different circles. At any rate, Salvaggio knows all about the allegation since he was the one behind it. It's likely the report will come out from another source at some point. But first, Salvaggio's team is giving the mayor an opportunity to make a political scandal out of it. And she's doing exactly what they wanted her to do. They set a trap, and she's falling for it. I guess the LVPD binge-watching of the corruption report taught them a few effective political tactics after all. On November 16, 2021, the Attorney General gave the city permission to conceal most of the report, but they instructed the city to release the basic information. The city received a letter ruling on November 18th, but failed to comply with the order to release the basic info. Since then, Evan Bohl has called the council corrupt during many of the council meetings, but he rarely produced even a shred of evidence to support his claim. Evan cited the report as potential evidence of corruption. Evan noticed that the council assisted me with obtaining information when Paralysis staff was being pig-headed. Evan asked me to request the council to release the report. I then researched the matter and learned that the city never released the basic information. I figured this was just unfinished business from the previous administration, so I submitted my own request for the basic info. I wanted to give the council an out. I figured the city would quickly release the basic info, and that would shut Evan up. I never expected what happened next. The council passed an open records transparency resolution last year and advocated for the release of public information. So after I submitted my request, City Manager Crystal Caldera notified Mayor Riley that the basic information would be released and also asked her if she wanted the entire report to be made public. Mayor Riley responded by telling the city manager to keep all of the information secret. Around that same time, Mayor Riley found out that Evan planned to file against her for mayor. She didn't want Evan to use the police report against her. Putting herself first rather than the city and the public, she fought the release of the report. Her husband, Attorney Darby Riley, called the Office of the Attorney General. He then sent a letter to the city and to the AG protesting the release of the report. He specifically argued that the basic information should not be released. It was an absurd argument. Darby Riley said that the basic information was not subject to Section 552-108, yet he argued that the entire report is covered under 552-108 and should be withheld. He wanted his cake, and he wanted to eat it too. He did not provide any citations to support his argument. Well, we'll see if I get another takedown demand from Mr. Riley. Mayor Riley does a great job shaking hands and kissing babies. She's good at acting nice and making people feel like she cares about their concerns. However, Mayor Riley and her husband often use others to push their agenda. In many instances, they use the city for their personal agendas and projects. But the current council has a pro-liberty leaning and blocks many of her pet projects and overrules her desire to limit development within the city. For example, Darby Riley is a past president and director of the Leon Valley Historical Society, but you won't find any conflict of interest disclosures filed with the city. The private organization's main project is restoring the Hebner Onion House. Last month, Mayor Riley sponsored an ordinance to give federal COVID funding to the Historical Society. It was a ridiculous request that was ultimately tabled. The Historical Society wanted $39,000, claiming they lost that much funding in 2020 and 2021 due to COVID. They used tax returns to justify their request and conveniently went back to and stopped at 2014, the one outlier year where their revenue was the highest, approximately $70,000. In 3 of the more recent pre-COVID years, their funding was well below the level they claimed they lost during COVID. It was disgusting manipulation, and they did not demonstrate why public funds should be transferred to the private pet project. Perhaps they were accustomed to government that rubber stamps its politicians' political agendas. After all, that's what the previous council did. The funding request was placed on the following council agenda, but Rampage lost an illegal memo explaining that the project would need to demonstrate a valid public purpose. Mayor Riley shared the legal opinion with the Historical Society, but when I asked for the same memo, the city told me there was no responsive information available. That was a slap in the face, because the city administration had already talked about my request for the document, and then to claim to me that it doesn't exist?
When we get to the last item on the agenda, the intent of the Leon Valley Historical Society is to ask you to table that discussion at this time. We have read the opinion of the attorney, and we would like for the attorney to consider that the public purpose is not defined anywhere in this instruction from the federal government. And so we'd like to know if we're going to be held to a different standard from other organizations and individuals, or perhaps the council needs a little bit more clarification on how these funds can be dispersed in the community.
I finally obtained a copy of the legal opinion, but it's an instance of the mayor using official information for her personal and political purposes, while the rest of us are left in the dark. The Texas Public Information Act states, Section 552-007 of the Government Code, voluntary disclosure of certain information when disclosure not required. Subsection A. This chapter does not prohibit a governmental body or its officer for public information from voluntarily making part or all of its information available to the public unless the disclosure is expressly prohibited by law or the information is confidential under law. Subsection B states public information made available under subsection A must be made available to any person. The same applies for the Attorney General Incident Report. Mayor Riley obtained the report in her official capacity, but is using the report in her personal capacity. Darby Riley is not the city attorney. He is a member of the public, just like me. When she provided it to her husband so he could argue to keep it secret, she actually made the document subject to required public disclosure. Unfortunately, Leon Valley continues to play open records games. Mayor Chris Riley has substantial disdain for Evan Bohl. She does not like that Evan Bohl is pushing for the release of the police report. Mayor Riley does not want the community to see the police report. The Rileys submitted the letter to the Attorney General with the intention of delaying release of the police report. Mayor Chris Riley does not want the report released due to the negative viewpoint of the police report. It's not about the categories of information contained within the report. The Public Information Act prohibits discriminating based upon the position of the requester. Section 552-223, Uniform Treatment of Requests for Information. The officer for public information or the officer's agent shall treat all requests for information uniformly without regard to the position or occupation of the requester, the person on whose behalf the request is made, or the status of the individual as a member of the media. The city raised the law enforcement exception. However, the city did not apply the exception uniformly. The city released a substantial amount of law enforcement records to Salvaggio. Records about me, Josh Stevens, David Warden, and Jack Miller were released without objection. The law enforcement records relating to the mayor were the only records the city sought to withhold. Let me give you another recent example about the mayor's political behavior. As I was saying earlier, the councilors generally do not vote the way she would like. So a few weeks ago, she took to writing in the taxpayer-funded Lions War publication about recent zoning votes. With campaign season approaching, some of the councilors considered it an underhanded political smear. This is a city council approved policy. No council member who is running for office in May will be allowed to write in the Lions War during the months of December through May, even if the councilor does not intend to run or if they are unsure about running. If their seat is up for election that year, this applies. Before you start shouting about the First Amendment, this is government speech and different standards apply. But to be clear, let's see what Mayor Riley's ideas were for the Lions War policies back in January 2020. Overall, we agreed the LOR should be educational, informative, not perceived as being negative or self-promoting. In Section 3, no commentary, editorializing, or promotion of any political party, idea, current campaign issues. When in doubt, leave it out. No current council member who is running for office in May will be allowed to write in the Lions War during the months of February through May. It's not some policy forced upon her. It was her idea. Talk about hypocrisy. Do as I say, not as I do. Now is as good of time as any for me to explain some of the local politics. Councilors Stevens, Hefner, and Bradshaw generally disagree with the mayor's policy agenda. Martinez considers Riley a friend and sometimes pushes her agenda.
Martinez, I'll let you begin. I've got some comments.
I have several concerns over this project. I think it's been rushed. I think there's a lot of changes to our zoning that have been made to accommodate this project, and I would like to see us step back. And one of the big concerns is I think we need a traffic analysis on this project. I would like to make a motion we postpone this until a future date, until we get the traffic study completed.
Okay, you and I had discussed it today because I also have concerns about the project, especially traffic.
I'll second the motion, but I want to discuss it.
And then we can discuss it, more discussion. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, so...
Yes, Councilor Stevens, I've got some.
I think this is ridiculous, to be completely honest with y'all. Like postponing this is a residential property already. So to complain that it's going to be about traffic is it's just I feel like this is an effort to try to prevent the project from occurring. And I don't understand the real true reason. Is it really about traffic?
But I'm not sure that sentiment goes both ways. While pushing to disqualify her previous challenger from the race, Mayor Riley also took out Martinez. Stevens disagrees with many of the things Riley does, but he is insecure about his election. For example, he didn't file until almost the last minute. He panders to Riley because he wants her support during the election. I'm not sure why he can't just hit the pavement and win on his own. Bradshaw has a better political footing and is a prudent politician while remaining philosophically sound.
What really is incorporated into that is the investigative report that, unfortunately, by law, you don't have to release to us in the community, but if the members it mentions was found innocent, they should be rushing to prove me wrong and shut me up for one last time. Or, for the sake of transparency alone, just release that report to us, and either you prove that you're right or you prove that I've been right, and we end this chaos once and for all.
Ultimately, no one other than Evan will take the effort and risk to challenge Riley. I tried to get others to run. I tried to give voters a real choice. But now that it's Evan and Riley, I'm being pressured to ignore Mayor Riley's official actions. However, morality is not relative. The ends never justify the means. Something is either right or it is wrong. It doesn't matter which side is doing it or who is politically involved. I applied a uniform standard to the current administration and filed a complaint with the Attorney General, just like I had done numerous times before. Actually, if anything, the complaint was watered down, and I made an exhaustive effort to work things out with the city administration before submitting the complaint. After I submitted the complaint, the city sent a blacked out copy of the incident report. About the only thing not redacted was suspect Chris Riley and witness Joe Salvaggio. The city also released 2 emails. The city had Attorney General authorization to withhold these emails, but selectively chose to disclose them while hiding the rest of the information. Selective release of information is a powerful form of bias. The government and media publish the documents that make them look good or push their preferred political agenda. I am publishing these emails, but I want to caution you to not be politically manipulated. If it was true transparency, everything would have been released so you could make your own decisions. Instead, this is what Master wants you to know. The OAG investigator concluded her report stating that there was no probable cause to move forward on the sole felony level offense, which could be applicable in this matter. Furthermore, after a review of potential misdemeanor offenses in this matter, our office has determined that the statute of limitations has already run for each alleged occurrence. At this time, with no probable cause to pursue any felony offense and limitations running on each of the alleged misdemeanor offenses, our office will consider this matter to be closed. That's very comforting, isn't it? That the government investigated itself and closed the case without prosecution and without bringing it before the grand jury. Since the basic information was still withheld, I submitted an updated complaint. Dr. Caldera made an extra effort to contact the Attorney General Open Records Division. They told her 2 weeks ago to wait for further advisement from them before releasing information. However, I'm not sure if they were aware of my more recent request. On Friday afternoon, the AG gave her specific guidance as to which portions of the report were basic information. On Saturday afternoon, I received a slightly less blacked out report. I think it's fairly straightforward that the synopsis and introduction are a detailed description of the offense that must be released. This case was referred by the Bexar County District Attorney's Office. The request is regarding allegations of misuse of official information made to the Leon Valley Police Department. Specifically, it is alleged that Mayor Chris Riley of the City of Leon Valley obtained privileged information by the authority of her office and released unredacted information to a member of the public. It is further alleged that the mayor used the authority of her office to obtain the privileged information to prevent accrued expenses associated with the process of a public information request. Well, isn't that cute? Salvaggio tried to make excessive open records fees into a crime for the mayor. As far as the felony, Mayor Riley is once again saved by an independent journalist. Misuse of official information was declared unconstitutionally vague by the Federal Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in November. The Institute for Justice scored the victory after suing the city of Laredo. There, a woman who runs a popular Facebook page was arrested for asking a police officer a question about a case. You can't dream up this tyranny. Texas cities are out of control. Salvaggio has an affinity for unconstitutional penal codes. He previously targeted opposition counselors and committee members under the walking quorum law. That law was soon struck down by a state appeals court. Can you imagine what Salvaggio would do if the First Amendment did not exist? The corruption report would be toast. That's for sure.
The City Council has in its possession the Attorney General of the State of Texas's investigative report into members of the City Council. There have been requests for that document to be released to the public because it is in the greater interest of the public to know what is in that report. It is allowed to remain secret and hidden because the state says that because no action due to corruption was taken to charge criminally those it names, that by law the city does not have to give it to us, but it should and does not forbid the city from giving it to us. If transparency really is a value of this council, which it has been proven by action not to be, then this council can now make a resolution releasing that document to us who have requested that and for those who request it thereafter. This council and even their supporters have harassed, chastised, and challenged those who have brought forth the truth and dismissed it. This report will say with definitive weight who was right and who was corrupt. I call on this council to release that document. What do you have to hide, we wonder? Thank you.
Since Mayor Riley wanted to hide the report, I can't further exonerate her. My speculation is that the report describes actions that she really did do, but those actions are not criminal. I hope Mayor Riley can one day gain an appreciation for the First Amendment. It certainly saved her. There is a line of thinking that police investigations that did not result in conviction should be kept secret. But those are the most important records for uncovering police corruption. The people who are innocent are the ones whose stories will expose police misconduct. If your privacy is more important than the truth, then I should just end my show. I'd have a much better work-life balance if I rooted for the police. I'm fighting for the people, but if everyone is going to fight my efforts to access information, then best wishes. You are on your own. The Leon Valley government is trying to characterize this as a misunderstanding about what constitutes basic information. But it's perfectly clear from Mr. Riley's letter that they sought to keep the entire report secret, including the basic information, in violation of the Attorney General ruling. They wanted to hide the police report for political gain. I don't think City Manager Caldera caused the open records violations. It was Mayor Riley. But if I were to criticize Caldera, I don't think she would have the police department pounce on me. In an effort to be as transparent as I can, I've posted to my website most of the messages and documents relating to the scandal. There are additional messages with city councilors that I can upload with their consent. Throughout the struggle in Leon Valley, access to public information has been one of the main battle cries. Denial of records was one of the Change Leon Valley talking points, and my open records complaints were used as evidence of corruption. When I was holding Joe, Kelly, and their supporters accountable, my work was appreciated. But as soon as I do the exact same thing for the current political establishment, I'm labeled the bad guy. They've accused me of aligning with Joe and allowing him control. If you've been following my channel, you know that's ridiculous. The closest thing to alignment is when Joe had to be scoped from both ends after I somehow sent him to the hospital. Seriously, true story. Justin did it. I suppose my butt hurt on a police officer charge will be forthcoming. I was pressured to overlook the mayor's open records games. They said that if I hold her accountable like I did everyone else, then they would ditch me. I'm told that my actions, not the mayor's, that my work on the corruption report risked Evan getting elected. They think I've helped give Evan political ammo. What did I do? I copy and pasted from the Attorney General ruling that the city, under the current council, failed to comply with. It was not an obscure request. There were 6 requesters, including Mayor Riley herself. Eric Mata requested the report over a week before Evan did. But suddenly, since Evan is involved, it's wrong for me to expect Leon Valley to follow the law. Call me naive, but I thought that politicians who were stifled by the previous council would be especially accommodating of free speech, including criticism from people they don't like. I stand on principle. I have not wavered. If a political group is distancing from me, they are the ones who are changing the standards. Some think power, getting elected, is more important than doing what is right and following the law. I can't get behind that mentality. I'd like to think that I'm not alone. Surely there are voters out there who respect those who fight for what is right. On the other hand, a significant number of viewers have their favorite parties and politicians. I've read the comments. I know that many viewers will be mad about this report. You're mad that I'm not just blindly following your favorite people in Leon Valley. If I merely state the fact that a certain corrupt individual is a Democrat, I get flamed and people unsubscribe. Likewise, the right-wingers who claim to be against snowflake cancel culture will ditch me if I factually state that someone is a Republican. If I discuss an auditor in a critical light, I'm unfairly trashed across the internet and lose subscribers. Ultimately, to grow in the media, especially social media, most shows become echo chambers where viewers come to reinforce their biases, to hear what they want to hear. Instead of keeping an open mind and entertaining opposing viewpoints, we are in an era where people rage quit and run to the nearest safe space. That's not what the corruption report is about. I seek the truth and will publish what I find. The unsubscribe button is right there if that's a problem for you. Thank you for watching.